Richard, as always, thank you so much for joining. I could not be doing these conversations without you. That's for sure.
Well, you probably could. You have your own conversation, but that's cool.
No, the level of depth and insights you have. So and on that note, there's nothing like picking subject matter. We talked about awareness, mindfulness, expand on that. We could go on for days, volumes, months on all these, but we're going to talk about energy. And when we talk about it, there's different types of energy. And the scale, we're talking about from an atomic level or emotional level or emotional capacity to light, frequency, sound, and how that's all transferable, exchanges, ties and touches and threads through everything. So I'm going to hot potato. Where should we start?
Yeah, it's a good question. I love that we've chose this as our topic, and I have a feeling we're going to go down a few paths here, and let's see where it goes and where we end up. But energy is everything. We are energetic beings. We're energetic beings. And I don't think most people really realize that or
Sure.
think that way about themselves. In fact, I know they don't. And this will require a mindset shift. So I'm going to ask anyone listening to come to this with an open mind and to really reflect on themselves and their own energy. Okay? Because it's all within us.
Yeah.
And the body's usually screaming at us, and whether we're listening or not is a different story. Energy is a topic that's getting a lot more media time at the moment.
Sure.
It's a lot more interest. People are talking about energy. People are reflecting
attention
on their own energy. And I think this is a great thing.
Okay? It is.
The East has been talking about this and practicing this stuff for thousands of years, and we're catching up a bit here.
Sure.
And there seems to be, I'm not going to say a disconnect, which is fantastic for once. Things are starting to connect from the scientific and the mystic world.
Yeah.
Because a lot of this is being absolutely proven, scientifically proven. And some of this is harder to explain.
Absolutely.
Some of this is harder to grasp. And so it lives more in the metaphysical world. And I think people are more open to that these days. And
I agree.
And as people start to get more into practices like mindfulness and meditation and things like that, they're becoming exposed to this.
I would, if I may jump in.
Yeah, please
because
do.
I was a little inspired, had a little spark there on it's not the negative side of this, but I think there's a compartmentalization or there's an idea or conceptual idea that it's separate than. I think that some of the collective is talking about it. I believe that there's more communication about it. You're going to see more people even doing practices, yoga, energy work, sound baths, just relatively all different exchanges and understand the physiology of it. But I think that there's a sense, if I may, I don't want to generalize or guess what anybody's in their mind. I personally have seen and experienced the idea of energy in silos or encapsulated in a subject matter. So it'll be like, okay, there's quantum physics here. And then over here, we're going to talk about, even just on the scientific gravity, we're going to talk about frequency, the sound waves. But I think what happens, it just is, again, my perspective and view is I think that there's a partition in people's mind, not always understanding that it's all connected.
It's all one.
Right. It's all one. And I think that what happens is people go down. Again, I sound like, and that's why I preface with sounding like I'm negative, but I'm not. I'm just trying to create little recognition because I know I've fallen into this as well of feeling separation between it. And which we can get into later is also too, as you're giving your energy away, you're giving your power away, things like that. There's a resonance in this same subject matter, but you're also, if you're compartmentalizing, not understanding that the parts are one, you're not holistically feeling it and flowing with it.
That makes sense. I think in the West here, we're very good at compartmentalizing things. So we break the physicality down and we have specialists for the hand and specialists for this and that
great point.
organ and
this
this
the medical
organ.
industry, everything is...
We are a system of systems. Everything we do has cause and effect somewhere else, right? It just does. And we need to look at the body that way. We really do. This is taking it further. Okay, this is looking at our quantum field, our energetic field, and we'll talk a little about energetic anatomy later on, and which I think as we unpack this. But within the quantum field, okay, and the reality is most people are blissfully unaware of their quantum field, and you could call this your aura, if you want to call it your auric levels, your auric layers. There's a frequency and information, a knowledge within this that really speaks to the health and wellness of our being.
Sure.
Okay. And this is all about the being. This is all about the being, not the doing, about the being and the energy that we can put out and take in. And that quantum field can shrink and expand based on our energy or our wellness, if
Absolutely.
that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
And this energy field, I'm not going to say it's contagious because it's not contagious. We're all scared of the word contagious now, but it's not contagious. But people can feed off it. You can transmute. You can. It transcends normal ways of communication and normal means of communication.
Sure.
I'll give you a classic example. If someone walks into a room and you're like, oh, that person has good energy. Or you've got good energy today. Or you had bad energy today. What's up with you? Or you hear about people say, oh, that person's got good vibrations.
Yeah.
People say all these things, but they don't really think about what they're saying. But that's exactly what it is. Energy is a vibration. Energy is a frequency, right?
Absolutely.
And so a lot of the work that I do and the focus that I'm really putting myself into is all about elevating someone's energy.
Sure.
Okay. But empowering people with the tools necessary that they can become aware of their own energy through doing some civil self-evaluations we'll talk about soon, and then build out their energetic toolbox so they can call on tools that can help to change their energy at any point in time.
Yeah.
But this is all irrelevant unless someone's aware.
Okay. Yeah, I agree.
You need a very healthy dose of self-awareness here.
Yeah.
Okay. And energy, it doesn't leave us, if that makes sense.
I agree. It does not.
We can dissipate energy, but energy stays within us. It can grow and expand and shrink and exchange, right?
Yeah.
And so I think we're just starting to scratch the surface on all of this.
Yeah. So you have a lot to unpack here. So I'm going to run down a couple of things that you said. One was I want to touch on energy of the room. So let's just take it in a real practical, earthly manner here. Is people can change the energy of the room. Good, bad, sideways, ugly, whatever that is, beautiful, uplifting. But optimally, we want to change if we're going to have a resonance or an influence into the room. I mean, ideally, you want to be the light and lift it up. And it's very possible and plausible. I'll ask you, can you be intentional with that energy in this, and especially into this example?
Definitely. Yeah. You can definitely be intentional with this. Most people, it's not intentional.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. They don't intend to come into a room and go, I'm going to light up the room with bad energy or good energy or whatever.
Well, maybe somebody, I don't know.
But I'm sure there's some people that do that. Sure. I'm intentional. At the moment, when I go into meetings and the energy that I carry into that room and how it affects a call or space that I'm in, yes, we can.
Yeah.
Where our intention goes, energy flows.
Yes.
Okay, where our intention goes, energy flows. And if you think of the guiding practices, and I've talked about this enough on the show, is at the base of mindfulness. Mindfulness is a great base to start because it gets people into the present moment, because all of this has to happen in the present moment. Okay. You need to be aware of your energy in the present moment.
Yeah.
It's very hard to be aware of your energy in the future or the past. You can reflect on the past, but you can't really do much then. In the present moment, where am I now? Taking stock of where I am now, the energy I'm holding, and why. Okay. Why am I holding that energy? Why am I feeling this way today? Okay. I just want to go back to the quantum field and the information coming in from the quantum field and the energetics. We've got a few rabbit holes here, and I think it's a topic that's going to need some rabbit holes for sure. But the information we feed our field, and it feeds back to us. It's so far outside of the scope of what we've probably been taught in the way we deal with our mental and physical health in many ways, but it's really tapping more into the emotional body as well. And we've left a piece out of this, and we'll get to this when we talk about energetic anatomy as well, is the energy centers of the body.
Okay.
We have 7 energy centers, main energy centers of the body. There's many more. The 7, let's not overcomplicate it to start with, right? And those 7 energy centers of the body charge our auras and vice versa. And you can have different energies that we put out. The energy of sadness, the energy of happiness, the energy of guilt, shame is probably one of the worst. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think one of the keys to this is we're not very good at naming what we're feeling.
Okay.
Because when we start naming our feelings, naming it, pinpointing what it is and talking about it, we start to have more ownership on it. That's what a lot of this is about. If we want to change our energy and change the way we think and feel, we need to pinpoint what's going on here, right? We're very good at shutting things down. Okay. Now, think of a time, and I think anyone listening to this can think of that time when you were really embarrassed. You did something in front of a lot of people and you're like really embarrassed. Absolutely. I think we can all think of that, go back to school or a time or an awkward date or whatever it is. If you were to think of that time, I'm sure you'll have this cringeworthy feeling of, it takes you back. You think it, you feel it. Where do you feel it? Where do you feel it?
Your lower chakras, right? In your gut,
right? Your
even
gut,
lower,
your solar plexus. That's what I'm saying. We hold that energy. we can feel that situation like it just happened now or today or yesterday, even though it was 10, 15 years ago. And we do the same thing with love, falling in love. By the way, heartbreak, that's the hardest one.
Yeah.
That'll your first couple of heartbreaks, man, they're going to scar you. But that's there. And it comes up so easy. Fires up this reaction that we get from a lot of this. That's energy.
Yeah.
Now, think about this one for a second. So something stressful happens at work. I'm going to put this as a situation I think most people can resonate with is I've had a stressful week. Okay, I'm making this up. I've had a great week. I've had a stressful week at work. Many things, one thing after another. And it's Friday night and I'm going home and I've got it all in here and I didn't get to say what I was meant to say in meetings or I didn't. And I go home and I'm feeling it. And I get home and my wife or my partner is feeling great. She's had a great day. And I walk in and suddenly that transfer of energy, she can feel it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then what do I do? Or what do? We start offloading.
Yeah, absolutely.
We start offloading.
Yeah. Depending on the person, that might bounce back.
Yes.
All of a sudden, you're going to start volleying each other back and
volleying
forth.
each other back.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult for the other person, particularly when you're close to them, not to take on that energy as well.
You're going to absorb it.
You can absorb that energy.
Absolutely.
And it is a transfer of energy. And we do it all the time.
Yeah.
Now, what I think we need to do is have healthier ways to dissipate our energy when we need to.
Mm-hmm.
And there's many good ones out there, breath work, exercise, meditation, mindfulness. There's so many. But we don't think of the reason that's why we need to do it.
Sure.
Okay? Because if we don't dissipate this, we spread it or it sits there.
Right.
Okay? And it builds up.
I'll say too, I'm going to use that one only because I want to just talk about one. I'm going to stay in that one negative and then this is it. We'll leave it after that. But I would say there's a form of within this is of manipulation of energy, an intentional way at times. So that example or another example could be I'm trying to sway somebody, or this one I'm upset and I want to bring this other person to my energetic level and utilizing that to manipulate the environment. So energy itself inherently does not have an emotion. It does not know, in my opinion, does not know it's being negative, positive in a sense. There's an application in how it's received as well too. So we're talking about saying that energy transference, absorption, or lack thereof, you don't have to absorb it either. You can process it, being aware, coming back to that energetic field that's being approached on you, and transmute it, convert it, shift it into that arena. So it's not that there's necessarily a question behind that, but there is a level of us as humans being emotional creatures, logical creatures, wanting to maybe controlling our environment. There can be forms of, or people utilizing, on the flip side of bringing a room up, we can bring the room down, and we can do it unintentionally or intentionally. And I think why I say this is just there is a recognition of it. Because when we talk about love, we talk about energy and frequency. I really believe that many of us, I shouldn't say many, most, or anything, but they want to feel the positive side of that. When we're focused on it, I believe the journey and the intention and the trajectory is to achieve ease, love, joy out of that when you really are intentional. So I guess there's just a little bit of recognition I wanted to just put as a placeholder and kind of leave it at that. I don't think that there's necessarily, because the point of this conversation is we're trying to bring awareness of the collective entirety of energy and how it's pulled together.
I absolutely see where you're going. There's a collective energy as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's saying your vibe attracts your community, your tribe and community.
Yeah.
People that like to moan and maybe a bit more negative tend to hang out with people that like to moan and are a bit more negative.
Yeah.
You all know that person, right? And it's funny because you might have that friend that you love dearly, but they always like to moan. And then suddenly you get on a call with them and you find yourself moaning as well. And you get off and go, hold on. And you're drawn into that energy. And then you got other people who are positive, optimistic, looking and go, okay, I'm drawn into that energy. And so there's something there, right?
Which I would say too, is you almost have to have your capacity or your tanks have to be able to, I don't want to say resonate with it. We're going to come across positive or negative people no matter what, but I think for you to, or I think as we grow and expand our tanks and our awareness and our nothingness and our ability to be neutral, we allow ourselves to connect with those and attract those types of people as well. So I think that does also multiply, magnify, and resonate with of like people. In essence, and I say that as the energy doesn't itself, there's a collective consciousness, but many times this is also gets into another thing that I think we should touch on too, is what is that energy exchange? Is it the physical, the particles affecting the energy? Is the energy affecting the particles? And there's an exchange in there too.
Oh my goodness, there's so many topics here to dig into.
I know. I went off. I sprayed it out. I know, but
it's good. I love it. Just going back to the people.
Yeah,
Okay, so
sure,
one of the things that I do, and we'll talk about that soon, when I do a holistic, energetic sort of check-in for people, so that creates self-awareness.
Okay. And maybe ask you in this check-in, is this are you working with them, or is it like a worksheet, or is it something? Go to a real base level with that.
Okay, so I've developed an energetic well-being, or holistic well-being check-in for people. Okay,
sure.
And I have different sort of pillars within this pie, and 0 is in the middle, and 0 is bad. It's as bad as it can be, and 10 is as good as it can be.
Okay.
And I race through them without giving descriptions. Why? Because when I start to give descriptions, people tend to think a bit more and change their answers. And so I want people to answer really instinctually, like quick. So, for example, movement, scale of 1 to 10. Movement, not just exercise, but movement. Nutrition, hydration, sleep, pleasure, and play, which really means hobbies.
Okay. Are these one word? Are you just saying one word and getting that response?
They'll have a sheet in front of them. They can mark it down. So
I don't mean to overdo it, because I really because you say those, and I have an emotional response that personally I could feel at a certain level. It either hits my gut, I'm like, not enough movement today, or something like that. And it's like water. I feel like, okay, I'm neutral there. You just said hydration.
It's funny,
so it's interesting.
because everyone has their own scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
Your 10 maybe my 5, or vice versa. We just don't. So that's why it's your scale, and it leads to so many questions afterwards. Relationships. And I divide that into family, friends, and love. And so that's a bit of a trick one there, because people have to decide what that means to them. Okay. I don't say, are you in love? Romantic. Love. Okay. Career. It's a big one. Environment. Okay. Where you live? Country, state, where you work, your home, stuff like that. And then the last bucket, it's probably one of the most important, I call it purpose and passion. It's really spirituality. And so they put their score down, round quickly on a scale of 0 to 10. We look at it. And then based on those lower buckets, I start to ask questions around this. Why is this a 5 and not a 6? Or why is this a 5 and not a 4? Which is always a good question, because it could always be worse. It starts to change their frame of mind. Then when I do this for the first time with anyone, I'll then go through each bucket. And I'll talk energetically how that could feel to them. And say, one of them, the people one's interesting. Because if you're surrounding yourself with people at work that are negative, if you don't like what you do for a job and you're going there, and you're surrounded by work colleagues that are also negative, let's layer on top, I don't get enough sleep. I don't have much movement in my day. What I eat energetically, nutrition-wise, is over-processed, highly sugarized, and not great. I don't have many hobbies, or I don't do any hobbies that light me up. I don't like where I live. How do you think someone's going to be feeling energetically? Not good. But most people are not aware. They just carry on with life as it is and they just call it fate. But it's not. You're in control of this. And this is what I want to get to. Okay? This is what I want to get to. And I feel this is the awakening we're having. Okay? That the consciousness that we're having is we are in charge of this.
Right.
We are infinite in potential and possibilities. No, seriously. And when we get to ourselves, when we get to a space of nothingness through meditation, a space, we start to rewire. We start to reframe. Okay? It happens.
Yeah.
Energetically, it happens. And particularly when we start working on our heart center, coming from the heart, from a place of love and surrender. And by the way, the energetic, the field, quantum field coming off your heart chakra, your heart center, is the most powerful one. And this is,
I think isn't it measurable about 3 meters or something like that?
Yes,
that's some of the
exactly it.
Some of the Joe Dispenza,
Well, that's exactly. If you're not listening to Joe Dispenza, listen to Joe Dispenza starting tonight.
Yeah, right.
Okay? His work is epic. It's epic. And I think people are starting to realize this now. I think I've said this to you before on the show, is that the amount of men that are coming to me now and saying, hey, my coping mechanism's not working. I'm burnt out. I'm exhausted. I'm overthinking. And here's the thing, when you're overthinking, what's the energy you're putting out? That energy, that overthinking, anxious energy has a wiry feeling to our body and our auras. Okay? It's not calm, grounded, and balanced. And when you are grounded and balanced, you have a different energy. You just do. Okay. So it feels like a complicated topic, and I think we tend to make it more complicated than it is.
Right.
It's actually quite simple.
It is. I agree. And I think that's where I even started too when I was talking about compartmentalization, silos. I think there's this complexity where you go down the down this rabbit hole, we keep saying, but pulling it back together. So there's a few things. One of the original rabbit holes I said I'd go down to, a little black hole, is I was listening to somebody talking about quantum entanglement. So from an energy, because you mentioned communication. So I'm not a quantum, but the quantum entanglement basically it's similar to quarks where they're separated, but their actions, their motions, and they are the same. So they're in two separate places. So in quantum entanglement, the particles are either separated or duplicated. And obviously at this level, I don't know, but great distances. If one starts rotating, the other one starts rotating exactly at the same way, or the same frequency, the same vibrational motion or cadence. So if you're talking about this on a particle level and then bring in our EMF field from our brains and our hearts in this field on that tiny microscopic atomic particle level, I'll throw this out there and I'll just ask it as a question. How much entanglement do we experience and how much communication is happening unbeknownst to us in the exchange of energy?
It's happening all the time. We're just not aware of it. Einstein did so much work on this, and he talked about the field. He believed the field gave the particle energy, not the particle giving particle information. Okay. Not energy, sorry, information. Energy is information. It's not particle to particle. He believed it was field to particle, which sort of blows people's minds. So that's interesting. That changes things.
And I think there's even a concept of the field. Again, on an atomic level, what is it? 99.9 is all space? Or
wow. 99.9% of any cell, any atom is just space.
There's only a point.
It's just space.
Yeah. 0.01.
And we've always wondered, why is there just space? What's going on there? But that's where everything is. Yeah. And that's the space. And that's why there's an element of mysticism here, because it's hard to explain. And people struggle with that.
I agree.
The materialists struggle with this. They're like, what are you talking about? Ask anyone that meditates. I'm a Reiki master, so I work in energy.
Yes.
And trying to explain that to a materialist is really difficult, trying to explain it to a lot of my friends.
Yeah.
So I say, I'm not going to explain it. I'm going to let you experience it.
Right.
Oh, wow. Okay. That is,
and I think that's a great point. I don't think there's an explanation. I think it's the experience. Yeah. And the experience is in a space of either nothingness or even I think it can express itself in emotional capacity, emotional shift, emotional change. And going into that intentionally is what's going to really adjust and reposition and reprogram, is where that beautiful point is. And then that's where people, I think, tend to question it. They'll get a little cognitive, they'll get a little logical about it. And they'll want explanations or disbelief because there's something changed in them and it's felt magical. And how do I explain that?
And particularly in today's world, because today's world, everything has to be measured.
Yeah.
Everything has to be measured.
Right. If it's not measurable or we don't know how to measure it, or the scale or the contextual understanding of comparison to it at a scale like this, where we're talking about, is because some of it in the field, you're talking about dimensional influence into it too, is it's either it doesn't exist or it's not science or something. There's some categorical out, but that's such a shame because that's the essence of the discovery of the journey seeking, of the information and the knowledge and the wisdom seeking. That's the essence of what I'll just say, what really the scientific exploration into it, or the explanation or the logical mounting around it.
I'm going to bring up a couple of emotions and we'll sit on those for a second. Love's such a strong emotion, right?
Yeah,
it's such
absolutely.
A strong emotion. And it probably has the most powerful force on our energy field, our quantum field, and us physically. Like when someone is in love, that new love feeling, there's someone in love, boyfriend, romantic love, girlfriend, romantic love, they just light up. Nothing gets in their way. It's interesting. And also when you have kids, how many kids have you got? Well, two boys are epic, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't even know why I asked if it's good. I know them very well. How much do you love your kids?
Oh my God. You can't put it into, put it into words.
Give me a score.
Yeah, you can't give a score. You can't measure
it. You can't measure how much you love your wife, your kids. You just can't.
Yeah.
Are you sad? Are you grieving? How much?
Right.
See, in a world where we're measuring everything, we're forgetting all of this, right? And we're so intuitively powerful and we've lost touch. Right. You'll hear a lot of people, particularly in the spiritual world, talk about remembering. And I think there's a real process now of remembering.
Right? Yes.
And I think the Eastern side of the world have forever have taught this. We've just ignored it.
Sure. Absolutely.
and we're paying the price now, by the way. Over-medicated, very sick people.
Yeah.
You know? We've got some real health problems. And health problems, if you think of disease and the build-up in the body of different things, it's a form of of energy, of trapped energy and diseased state is what that is. So, holistically, to look at the whole of the human being inside the human body, but not just physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. The 4 energetic bodies, okay? Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and how they all interrelate. We need to start looking at this, but people need to start reflecting on themselves first, okay? On themselves first. So this holistic well-being check-in that I do is a simple way of people going around, because I tell people, you don't need to do it every day. Don't do it. Do it once a week.
Yeah.
Why? Because things can creep up on you.
They're going to adjust. Going to change. So
I have 4 nights in a row where I'm eating poor food. Maybe it's Friday night tonight. I like pizza and maybe a bit of ice cream, too much ice cream. But I know tomorrow, energetically, I almost feel a little hungover, a little bit slow.
Yeah.
I know exactly why it was. But what we eat and how we move and how we think and how we sleep and what we drink affects our energy intimately. And we can change that. We can adapt that, which helps to open up.
So the physical affecting the psychological in that sense, or emotional capacity.
We're hitting it from all different angles.
So, what's interesting is obviously, and I know we didn't digress from our conversation, because there's an energy exchange at that point. So we've got an alchemical exchange that's happening in our body with, in this case, food, absorption into our structure, affecting and changing its environment, the systems within systems. So having awareness of that, adjusting and changing, and realizing the response that you had and changing that behavior is...
Just stick on food for a second.
Sure.
What we eat today will fuel our body tomorrow, the next day.
Okay.
What we eat becomes us. When you think of it in such simplistic terms, and then you go to the supermarket and it's hard to find. In fact, we're so out of whack that we have organic sections where everything's organic. We have to pinpoint, hey, this is real food.
Yeah, we have to,
If you think about that,
you have to chase it. You have to find it, right.
Go down the cereal aisle. The cereal aisles, I was going to say the cereal aisles in America, no, it's everywhere. These colorful boxes of over-processed sugar and E numbers and all these different things, right? The food is so far away from the source of what it is, right? Yeah. So it doesn't carry that energy or wholeness. It's over-processed, right? So when we're eating these empty-ish calories or sugar and fat, it's a chemical shitstorm. Your body doesn't know what to do with that.
Right.
That's an issue.
It is an issue.
Now, what I teach people with that, because nutrition's an interesting one, because you could pick up 8 different magazines and get 8 different diets.
Yeah.
I hate the word diet. It's very short term. I always tell to people, take note of how you feel after you eat. I eat my pizza and ice cream. I feel a little sluggish the next day. It's on me. I know that. I know that reason. If you eat an over-processed white bread roll sandwich at lunchtime and you're falling asleep at your desk 2.5 hours later,
yeah, exactly.
It's because of that. Foggy brains and stuff. So being mindful of how we eat and how it makes us feel. Okay.
So it's interesting, because I instantly thought of like a food journal in that sense. But then you have things like gratitude journals or just daily activity journals. And coming back to the energy behind that is awareness. I know it always comes up, but having cognitive recognition about this pattern and the ties to those residual energies that are pulling back around.
The awareness, and we talk about this all the time, there's no change unless there's awareness, acceptance, and then action. But the awareness is the first step. And I do food journals with this.
Yeah.
But my food journals with my program, Elevate Your Energy, is all about how people feel after they eat.
Okay. That's true.
Okay.
But the feeling is a measurement of your energetic system, your energetic field, and how your body transmutes it or processes it.
And the relationship people have with food. Do you know the amount of people I work with as well? Not work with, but as clients I work with, they have this feeling of guilt. I eat this, I feel guilty.
Yeah.
I eat this, I feel guilt.
There's emotional eating.
It's emotional eating.
And I think too that this is a bigger scope that I can't really speak on necessarily, because I think it's global psychology of it. But I heard a little theories about too, with some of the overeating, very dangerous levels of obesity and things like that, that's tied to the psychology of survival. Consuming to pack on protection, even at a very subconscious level, of layers of, we'll just call it safe fat, visceral fat. And there's a deep pain there that's surrounding protection and survival, surviving the metaphor, the thought of surviving the winter. And, and tied to that because where society has shifted and changed over the evolution of humanity and humans.
Yes, it's all an energetic transfer in a way, if you think about it. What we eat fuels ourselves. So if we're eating poor foods, it doesn't fuel us as we need to. Our body's very smart.
Yeah.
It'll keep telling us we're hungry. So people that are eating over-processed chemical-based foods, there's so many of those little snacks out there in sports bars. There's just nothing real in them. An hour and a half, 2 hours later, people are famished and hungry because their body thought it. Your body sees this food.
Yeah.
So your eyes see this food. And chemically, we start to get ready. We start to produce a little bit of saliva, or food's coming. Our guts start to start to produce the acids to break down food, etc. You get excited, your body does, and you start eating, and it goes, hold on, where's the protein? Not the carbohydrates, all this sugar, fats. Well, I'm not getting what I need out of this. Vitamins and minerals. It's a chemical shitstorm. And then an hour and a half later, they're famished.
So you're talking about too, and I hate to keep saying this, but I do, because I'm bringing it back to that energetic draw, energetic desire, that those routes of that your body's requiring, asking, and begging for those and not receiving them.
Yes.
So I'll dial it out. We do that on every level, frequencies, and even so I'll say there's food, there's what we listen to, what we hear, what we see, all those different influences of energy.
Yeah.
And there's things that can be agitative too. Because basically what I'm trying to say is you can translate that into other aspects of our life and how we pull in even too, I've just said sound. I don't know, there's inappropriate music or just agitated music or something like that.
On the subconscious level.
On the subconscious level. You're desiring something pleasant and you're enjoyable that gets you lifted up, but you're pulling in something.
I used to do this before playing sports or doing an activity like that or having a really hard workout. I'd listen to this heavy metal, angry type music to fire me up energetically. That's the effect it has, which is fine for that situation. Why? Because I'm dissipating that energy by working out or doing something or playing a game of rugby, if that makes sense. When we're firing ourselves up and listening to all this and we're not dissipating the energy, where does that anger go? Where does that emotion go? And unless you've got this trusted friend or someone that I'm feeling a little sad at the moment. No, how does it tend to come out? Anger comes out as anger.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. And I think even too with that, the music thing, I think it can pull in anxiety. If it's not the testosterone level of high energy, it can also just pull in agitative anxiety. Because I know I've experienced that with certain types of music too. But again, too, if it's not dissipated. So it's interesting, that energy exchange, you're getting into a specific psychological pattern or receiving of
I think of music that. As well as you and I do a lot of sound bowl experiences and different frequencies. And actually I did a beautiful one on Sunday night. It was fantastic. But the use of sound, different frequencies. I'm listening to music at the moment, sounds at the moment with the frequency of 528.
Okay.
Sure. And that's the frequency of love. Actually, the frequency of prosperity as well is quite interesting.
Okay.
They're calling it not the God frequency, but it's the frequency that is close to source, as they can say. It's very powerful. So it's quite interesting.
Absolutely.